In this video, I'm going to be trying to attempt to explain what on earth we just saw with the Reckoning Easter egg ending cutscenes. Honestly, I do not know how to feel about them at all. I am kind of speechless, so this video is kind of just going to be my initial thoughts and running you down all of the important key beats for the map that you need to know. However, I've yet to consume all of the intel, and of course, like usual, over the coming days and weeks, I'll be breaking down absolutely everything you need to know storyline-wise, a lot more in depth, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel for all of that jazz. So unlike all of the prior maps in Black Ops 6 Zombies, and pretty much zombies as a whole, apart from maps like Buried, this map actually has two different alternative Easter egg ending cutscenes, whether you side with Richtofen or the Sam AI. They are more or less the same, bar the middle part of the cutscene, so I'm going to play both of them for you to enjoy right now if you haven't seen them already, and then I'll jump back in and try and explain my rambly thoughts on them. Enjoy.
It's like Graham said, don't start something you got no intention of finishing.
Welcome to the party.
It's like Graham said, don't start something you got no intention of finishing.
Welcome to the party.
So before I jump into it, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of those cutscenes? Because like I said at the start, I really do not know how to feel, and scrolling on Twitter and the comment section of my videos, a lot of people do seem very frustrated because they feel like these cutscenes are just key jingling with not a lot of substance, and to be honest, I do feel quite similarly. The original characters returning just feels jam-fisted in with pretty much no setup or build-up and no real explanation here. Obviously, it leaked a very long time ago, so it could be possible that our perceptions are completely warped as a result of it leaking, because this would have come as a complete shock and a complete surprise if it didn't leak literally over a year ago now. And obviously this is just set up for Black Ops 7 Zombies. I think a lot of people's storyline issues with Black Ops 6 Zombies are a result of Black Ops 6 and 7 being developed simultaneously. I think the reason why there's so many lingering questions, and the questions that have gotten answered haven't been satisfying, is they're probably trying to do too much at once right now. And whilst I anticipated the original characters returning, I was expecting it to be done in a much better way that feels more substantial and earned, because this just doesn't feel earned at all. Like I said, it just completely comes out of nowhere. So there is no super Easter egg currently in the game, at least as far as I'm aware, so I'm wondering if Trek are going to save that for Season 6, but these are the important storyline information to know before we jump into the cutscene specifically. So when you jump into a game of Reckoning for the very first first time, you start to hear dialogue and you learn that Samantha Maxis has died off screen. Yes, that is right. As it turns out, when she sacrificed herself into the Forsaken's core, she underestimated Zykov and got owned instantly. She was completely eviscerated is the specific verbiage that they use. This again feels like a completely disappointing plot thread because throughout Modern Warfare Zombies we constantly had the question of just what happened to Samantha Maxis, and Ravenov informs Ava that Requiem tried to rescue her but ultimately failed. So we were expecting Black Ops 6 Zombies to go on a rescue mission to try and retrieve her from the Dark Ether, but as it turns out, it appears as though this has been retconned, as when she entered the core, she was just consumed by the Dark Ether and died. I absolutely do not think this was the original intention, and in hindsight it really makes Modern Warfare Zombies, at least a lot of it, feel really pointless, because like I said, Modern Warfare Zombies kind of served as just setup teasing Black Ops 6 Zombies, and that Samantha Max's question was the big one, and as it turns out we've just been going on this fetch quest for the Sentinel artifact following the SAM AI throughout the DLCs, and then it just turns out there was never even the possibility of rescuing Samantha Maxis to begin with. The SAM AI was lying to us all along. She knew that she was deceased, and it's just weird why this is not noted in Project Janus's mainframes that we see in Modern Warfare Zombies. I personally do think Samantha Maxis was meant to play a role in Black Ops 6 Zombies, the real version, not the SAM AI in some capacity, but as you know, Julie Nathanson got recast, and as sad as it is to say, I would assume that whatever Treyarch had planned with this initial Samantha Maxis rescue mission ended up getting changed and they had to pivot last second, which is why it feels so jarring and just comes out of nowhere on Reckoning, because the characters don't even really emotionally react to finding out that she's dead, enough to me at least. Gray gets some good lines, which, speaking of which, it is confirmed now that Gray did have feelings for one another. Gray says that she loved her.
You heard Sam. She's all that's left of Maxis. Don't you want some piece of your mate to live on?
I want all of her. I fucking loved her. I don't know if I could handle something else wearing her face. I just don't.
Obviously, this was getting teased throughout Cold War's intel, and it's kind of implied in the dialogue for this map as well that Ravenov and Samantha Maxis had some kind of past love relationship, which was also hinted at in Citadel Day Moore's intro cutscene, which doesn't really make much sense because we still do not know when that took place, as it was implied by the intel in Cold War that they met face to face for the first time on Firebase Z, but it seems like they must have had some sort of past relationship back during the Iran days, which would explain why he ends up being so hurt come Modern Warfare Zombies and he turns to alcohol addiction, etc. after her death. But I cannot believe that Samantha Maxis was just killed off screen. It just comes completely out of nowhere, and like I said, I think it is because it literally did come completely out of nowhere. Treyarch probably panicked after Julie unfortunately left, and this was kind of the workaround for that, but to be honest, if they had to do that because Julie left, just ignore it entirely. Leave it open-ended to the possibility that we can come back to her in the future if they fix their relationship with Julie and sort out a new contract, or just leave it as a mystery, because now it just makes Modern Warfare Zombies just feel like bait. All of that teasing with the cutscenes just feels so weird now. We also learned from the dialogue in the map that Samantha Maxis cannot be rescued because she was lost from the Dark Ether, and that apparently even the Sentinel artifact couldn't save her because she's literally gone, but I'll come a little bit more onto that in the future. Now, obviously, Zykov is back on this map. He is within his containment chamber. I don't really understand why though, because this is the exact same containment chamber he was kept within that Peck made under secret command of Richtofen throughout Cold War Zombies. However, we saw at the ending of Forsaken, the orb was carried off in the helicopter, but not the containment chamber. But the containment chamber must have been moved here because it has the exact same serial number, so it's the exact same chamber. And that means for the last 5 years or so, Zykov has been trapped in this chamber, and he's been in great pain and suffering. We learn throughout the quotes and the intel on the map, he's basically gone crazy in the past 5 years. He even jokes about having more sympathy if essentially he was a furry. He's gone completely whack in the time jump, but during the Easter egg on the map, you have to kill a Zykov to make the Gorg Effects wonder weapon. So yes, that's right, that's who the Gorg Effects is. It's made from Zykov. We were speculating before the map release that he might have something anything to do with Cortifex due to the name similarity. They could be Cortifex's son that he did something horrible to, but as it turns out, it's just a part of Zykov. Now, Zykov did consume Cortifex and the other Dark Ether old one, so it is possible that that's where the name comes from, but that seems really weird. We've had two major characters just killed off on this map just like that, just like nothing. It feels like there's such a lack of narrative weight here. So we learn from the quotes and the intel on the map once again that the Sam AI has been pretending to be Zykov, and Zykov has been training her to make power-ups, so she's essentially been mimicking him, which is why the announcer in the game is Zykov. But considering that Zykov gets killed here for good, it is a bit weird why he's still the announcer voice in Modern Warfare Zombies. Is this just the Sam AI still doing that? I don't really know. This all seems a bit jarring. Again, it makes it feel like this wasn't the original plan and they've had to shift and everything's been scraped together last second, which is why it all feels so rushed. And there's so many questions that don't get answered on this map that really should have, and the ones that are just completely open-ended. But the Sam AI forced him to teach her how to do these power-ups, and I'm guessing because she's based on the consciousness of Samantha Maxis, used to be in control of the zombies, she masters it perfectly pretty much immediately because she shares those Dark Ether powers with the real Samantha, who back in the day used to originally give us the power-ups. So this probably explains the C-Tower quotes on Terminus with the angry Russian man and the German woman who sometimes sounds like a girl arguing. That was probably the consciousness of the Sam AI, and also the Forsaken arguing amongst each other, because the same pulsating noises across the mainframes on Shad Vale with the Sam AI, Terminus, and on Reckoning. Now, we learned from intel on the map as well that Requiem's DNA was extracted at some point in time by Richtofen, and when they discover this, they are very mad that Richtofen did this. And it confirms that Richtofen took Samantha Maxis' eggs as well. Like, what the hell? When did that even happen? I guess in Block 8. However, it's not really expanded upon any further, so this is basically our first reference to Ava Jansen in Black Ops 6 Zombies, because obviously she was created by DNA samples taken from Ravenov and Samantha Maxis before she, I guess, died. And a lot of people were expecting Ava Jansen to get some sort of reference on this map. However, we are still in 1991 come Reckoning, so Black Ops 7 Zombies is probably going to be taking place before Modern Warfare Zombies, which means that the Requiem crew dying and Ava Jansen being born is still yet to happen, so Black Ops 7 Zombies is still going to be answering a lot of those questions that we still have. It is a shame that Black Ops 6 has essentially been split into two games with 6 and 7 instead of it all being answered in one game, but yeah, I guess we'll have to see about that. We learn in the intel as well, Richtofen harvested organs from all of his failed family clones, and DNA samples are used in the quest to restore his family, which I'll put onto. Now, this is the major thing because this is the first setup to the original Zombies characters returning that we get throughout the intel of the game. So there are different artifacts you can get from the original characters. For example, you can get Takio's katana, because as you know, when Samantha Maxis returned from her temporary imprisonment in the Dark Ether on Firebase C, she returned wearing clothing and items from the original Zombies characters, such as Nikolai's goggles, Takio's katana like I mentioned, the Zetsubo Noshima gas mask, and other things. But I remember back when we got this cutscene, some people basically cross-examined the models in the files to the originals, and they were saying, well, they are not the actual outfits from the original characters, it's just paying homage to it. But no, it turns out the intel essentially confirms that yes, these were. So these items from Samantha Maxis were kept with Requiem and I guess then Janice after she was retrieved from the Dark Ether and she was kept in Block 8, and these are from the original characters. So this was our very first clue that the original characters were returning all the way back during Black Ops Cold War. So I do think that they originally intended to bring them back someday all the way back then, and they were going to slowly introduce it to us. I just think somewhere along the lines, the narrative has completely gone wrong with Black Ops 6, so it's felt very jarring with them returning when they had a plan back then. It's just not been able to be executed as well as they probably initially concepted. And I literally made a video just a few weeks ago talking about all of the signs the original characters are returning, and Samantha Maxis' outfit was one of my evidence points points, and it's crazy to see just a few weeks later that has come true because so many people were writing it off back then. But the other big thing is that there is another intel, which is the scarf that Samantha Maxis came back with, again from the Dark Ether from Firebase Z. So she has this red scarf, and people were speculating at the time, could this be Dr. Monty's scarf? Could it even be Scarlet's scarf, which could definitely be a possibility now that the Chaos storyline has been connected with the Dark Ether narrative. But as it turns out, it is Dr. Monty's scarf. It references that it's by someone called M, which is obviously what Dr. Monty was often referred to in the ciphers and the messages throughout Black Ops 3 Zombies and Black Ops 4 Zombies as well. And they say surely M is not referring to Maxis, and that's because it's referring to Monty. And honestly, I never thought in the year 2025 we would be getting Dr. Monty references. And this has me hopeful for Black Ops 7 Zombies, because could we potentially see Dr. Monty back in some capacity? But how do these things make sense storyline wise? Well, it's pretty simple. At the ending of Tag the Toten, the original characters died and got sent into the Dark Ether. Dr. Monty also got sent into the Dark Ether, so when Samantha Maxis went in there, she found remnants of their old clothing. But could this mean Dr. Monty is still alive somewhere in the Dark Ether? Because Nikolai lets us know in that ending that Dr. Monty is in the Dark Ether.
Element 115, the Apothecars, even Monty himself. All of it will be banished to where it belongs. The Dark Ether.
And it's very well possible, which gives further credence that maybe this shadowy warden-like character, the Shadowsmith or whatever we see at the ending of Modern Warfare Zombies, could have something to do with the Shadow Man, because previously we've been saying he's probably a new villain, and that seems to be the consensus, and I'm still honestly partially leaning to it's probably a new villain. However, the fact we're getting Dr. Monty references does make me feel like maybe they could be bringing the Shadow Man and or Dr. Monty back in some capacity, which I think would be the right thing to do. I mean, if you're going to bring the original characters back, why not just go all out and bring all of the fan favorite things back and the most infamous villains? But speaking of Samantha retrieving these items from the Dark Ether, there is a second Easter egg song on the map where you can actually play Samantha's Rest, which was the final song that plays when Eddie and Sam went through into the new universe. And Richtofen has a quote saying that he actually remembers hearing this music.
No, it can't be. I heard this song a lifetime ago.
Now this is really weird, because how would he hear the music? It's meant to just be for us, obviously the audience. Does this imply that the in-game characters are able to hear music themselves in the universe? I'm not exactly sure, but this shows he has a lot of memories from the old Ether story. Obviously, Citadel Day Moore referenced the fact that he remembers it being his turn from the Origins ending. So yeah, that's recapping all of the important storyline beats that you need to know, but let's jump into the different ending cutscenes themselves and explain what they mean. So, like I said at the start, there's two different alternative ending cutscenes, so you have two different choices throughout the game. You can either kill Blanchard by gassing him, or kill Panos to upgrade the Gorg Effect's wonder weapon to get the two different variants for it. Essentially, each variant gets powered with their essence, but I think killing Blanchard is especially cruel. He's an innocent character that's always been our friend and helping us. It's so sad that we would ever do that. And this is the choice if you want to side with Sam, and it seems really weird that we would do something like this, something so horrible, in favor of the Sam AI. It makes us just seem like completely horrible people, and it's just so needlessly cruel, but it shows how grey all of our characters are. No one is really an innocent person. Whereas the other option to kill Panos makes sense, because he's been working with an evil, mysterious entity. I mean, he literally backstabs our characters on Liberty Falls to steal his essence, so it makes sense that we get back at him in the exact same way, this time stealing his essence. So that, I think, is very fitting. However, it's making me question again what on earth is going on with the narrative, because everything just feels so underbaked. We've been speculating a lot on the channel about who has Panos been talking to, and as far as I'm aware, and I could be wrong because I've not seen all of the intel yet, I don't think there is any reference to the Shadowsmith or whoever Panos was talking to, which we know is a he, his shadow benefactor that made him burn with his body and soul, and yet he's now just dead. So is this just still a lingering thing that's going to be safe for Black Ops 7 Zombies? We know, of course, the Shadowsmiths are going to be the main villain or the warden, so are we going to further learn about that in Black Ops 7 Zombies? And if so, again, it kind of feels weird knowing that Panos would already be dead by that point. So if we learn history about he and whoever this entity has been speaking with, well, it kind of is going to feel a bit too late. But it could be possible, like I said, that he could potentially be the Shadowsmith or the warden character we see at at the ending of Modern Warfare Zombies, or maybe it could even be the newer version of Richtofen that we see at the end, because the information we know about him is he's been referred to as a he, someone who's been to university, someone who knows Richtofen but doesn't necessarily hate him, referring to the Janice version, so it could be this new version. That makes complete sense. As to what the motivation would be for contacting Panos, I'm not really sure. That's going to be something we're going to have to figure out, I guess. So in the final boss fight, you can either choose to side with Richtofen or Sam. You either fight the Sam Orb, or you can fight the Uber Richtofen, where he's in one of the big Klaus mechs, and he eventually breaks out into just the regular version of Klaus at the end of the fight. The Uber Richtofen fight does seem to be a lot harder, at least until anything is patched, but in terms of the differences between the ending cutscenes, like I said at the start, the cutscenes are exactly the same. So each one starts off with powering the Sentinel artifact. So it seems like the towers slash the origins slash tomb pillars with the circular symbols on empower the artifact to make it way more powerful, literally. And the two endings are predictable. This is what we've been guessing the entire time since Black Ops 6 Zombies began, would be the outcome for Sam versus Richtofen. So if you choose the Sam AI side, she manages to create a physical body using the real Samantha Maxis's DNA to rebuild her body using the matter building properties of Prima Materia, and the Sam AI puts her consciousness, transfers from the orb into the body. And the interesting thing to note here is that at the end, her eyes are still glowing purple, meaning that she still has dark ether powers. That's important to know because we do not know what the Sam AI's agenda will be now that she actually has a body. But so far she's proven to not be trustworthy, so she cannot be trusted with such great power because you need to be a responsible person in order to have such power. And the important thing to note here is people are getting confused when they've watched this cutscene. Like I said earlier, the real Samantha Maxis is dead. This is not the real Samantha Maxis. Yes, she may look the same, she may have a consciousness that is very similar to her, and she may act very similar to her and share a lot of the memories with the real Samantha Maxis, but it is not the real Samantha Maxis, it's the Sam AI. And whilst they share memories, the Sam AI has built new memories of her own ever since she was created, and there are differences between the two. That's an important distinction to make. However, it kind of contradicts the lines that I was talking about earlier regarding the fact that it said the Sentinel artifact could not be used to retrieve the real Samantha Maxis. Well, I guess that's because she is dead, and this isn't the real Samantha Maxis, it's essentially just a clone of her, and then a consciousness based on her has been put inside her. And if you choose the Richtofen side, he gets what he wants and finally manages to restore his family. He gets to greet his wife Mary and his son Samuel and hugs them tight. However, there is a jarring problem with both of these cutscenes. For one, they are both very short and there's no dialogue at all, and it makes them feel so anticlimactic and unsatisfying. Especially the Richtofen side, because he's been trying to restore his family for decades, ever since they died. It's been his entire motivation for setting up Requiem. All of the events of Cold War Zombies and Black Ops 6 Zombies wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the events of that day and him trying to restore them. So to barely see any emotion in this cutscene and not see what actually happens after doesn't feel satisfying at all, and it makes everything just feel so rushed. It really does feel like we're just supposed to be forgetting about these events of Black Ops 6 Zombies now and jumping ship to Black Ops 7, and it really is a shame when this had so much build up to this moment, and in my opinion it kind of falls flat on its face. This is the outcome Richtofen should have gotten. I am fully on board with that. However, it's just not been executed in a way that I can emotionally connect to. There really should be dialogue here. It would have been great, for example, to get a bit of a montage cutscene, finding out about what Richtofen does with his family, living a happy life after he gets them back. Because ultimately we don't know what's the future for Janice Richtofen and his family now, moving forward into Black Ops 7 Zombies and beyond. Is he ever going to be mentioned again, or is he just going to be forgotten? But this leads me on to the biggest lingering question, and one that I've been seeing a lot in my comment section: which ending is canon? I honestly don't know. There's no indication right now. All we can do is speculate, of course, and honestly I think there's really good evidence for both. Firstly, I think the Richtofen ending makes a lot of sense to be canon because I doubt us killing Blanchard would be the canon ending. It makes more sense for killing Panos, as it's just way too cruel for us to do, and Blanchard is such a nice person wanting to help everyone, whereas Panos is working for some sort of mysterious evil entity and literally stole the essence of the strike team on Liberty Falls. It would be poetic for us to then do the exact same thing to him and take his essence. The fact that this is such a happy ending for Richtofen, he finally gets a happy ending that he's never been able to get before with all other prior iterations we've seen of him, then that makes it feel like this one makes the most sense, especially because Richtofen has been trying so hard to restore them, whereas we only first were introduced to the Samurai in this game, whereas Richtofen's been playing a long game since long before the Cold War days even. But then again, there's a lot of evidence that the Sam version is canon as well, because there is an arm that grabs Ava Jansen at the ending of Modern Warfare Zombies that she thinks is her mother, and she's distinctively wearing a purple jumper, and when the Samurai gets a body, she is literally wearing the exact same jumper, the purple jumper that Samantha Maxis was last seen in when she sacrificed herself to the Forsaken. So it could very well be possible that after the events of her getting a body, sometime in the future, she grabs Ava Jansen and pulls her into the Dark Ether. And that makes a lot of sense too, considering she has Dark Ether powers, that she could potentially end up working with the Shadowsmiths or trying to protect her from the Shadowsmiths or something like that, and maybe she grabs her before they are able to. But then that doesn't make much sense as well, because like I said earlier, I think the reason why Samantha Maxis got killed off screen is because of Julie Nathanson getting recast. But if they're now going to have the Samurai but in a real body, surely they would still need Julie Nathanson. I guess the workaround could be is they could still have the new actress that they have, but they put a demonic filter on her, especially if she becomes some sort of Dark Ether demon. But ultimately, this makes the story kind of feel pointless, because where is the emotional stake of the real Samantha Maxis dying, but then you introduce a character that's meant to be kind of like Samantha Maxis and even has similar powers, might become some sort of Dark Ether demon or Elder God serving the same role. What was even the point of having the Samurai? You might as well have just had the real Samantha the whole time. So yeah, which do you think is canon? Let me know in the comments below. But the other possibility could be that both could be canon. Could Treyarch be reintroducing the multiverse, and somehow in the future, maybe in Black Ops 7, both of the events of these different alternative versions are going to collide in some way? Because with the original Zombies crew returning, according to the leaks, the villains for the game, the Shadowsmith / the Warden, want to restore the multiverse, and they're going to try and harvest the essence of the original characters to do so. So could this be the very first sign that the multiverse is returning? It's very well possible. Maybe only one version is canon that we see in Modern Warfare Zombies, and that could be the Sam side, for example. But I think that the biggest evidence that the multiverse is either back already or is in the process of returning, which I'm leaning to the latter option, since that's the whole point of what the villains are going to be trying to do in Black Ops 7, is because the beam that shoots out from the Sentinel artifact creates a universe in the sky for both versions of the ending, and these mirror the animation exactly as what the Agarthan device did when the old multiverse was collapsed into a singular linear timeline. There has to be a reason that these are mirroring each other artwork-wise. And when Sam is given a body, you see an orb of essence come out of the universe in the sky and form her. Likewise with Richtofen's family, an orb of essence comes out of the universe. So I'm wondering if how the Sentinel artifact is functioning and how Prima Materia is functioning is it can basically tap into the fabric of reality for all potential outcomes that a multiverse would provide. So it's essentially plucking out from an alternative timeline another version of Samantha or another version of Richtofen's family and grabbing them for them. But I don't know if the multiverse is quite here yet. The multiverse got thrown into the Dark Ether, so very much probably exists within, but not within the regular world. But that's what the Warden wants to do. He wants the proper multiverse to be back in the regular world for whatever agenda. Whether it ties back to Monty and the Shadow Man is yet to be seen. And I think these beams that we see are essentially the same as what ends up happening with the original characters. Orbs of their essence were essentially manifested, their memories, and that's what the Warden wants to bring to life properly. But I think a big question as well is, moving forward to Black Ops 7, will we even hear of the Sam AI now with a body, or Janice Richtofen with his family again? Or will they just be completely done with and ignored now that Black Ops 7 Zombies is going to be fully in the heart of the Dark Ether? I really don't know. I could see, honestly, them being completely ignored, but at the same time, there's so many questions from the Dark Ether story that they can't just be ignored like that and pushed to the side. If we never hear, for example, from Janice honest, Richtofen again, that's going to feel so underwhelming when that's been the entire point of the Dark Ether story so far, and he gets a 30-second cutscene in which he doesn't speak, he just hugs his family, and then we don't hear from him again. We don't know what life he's living, we don't know if he's involved with even any of the zombie stuff at all, so we're going to have to see. But let's get into the final bit of the cutscene. What goes on with the original zombies characters returning? So like I said at the start, it was leaked a while ago, so we all saw this coming, and the leaks described the original characters returning not being Primis or Ultimus, but a newer version of them, older than Primis and younger than Ultimus, which is what we see. So the leaks were bang on correct there. So yes, I have been calling them Primis, you know, in my titles and stuff like that. That's just because it's more recognizable, but this is not Primis. Now, we don't have an official name for what they're going to be called now, but an idea that I've had for a very long time and have suggested in very old videos is that they could be called Tempus, which is Latin for time, because I think they are essentially going to be memories stuck in a liminal space in the Dark Ether of them, and that way it doesn't undo the Tag to Totem ending, or at least kind of, because the Easter egg song for the map is Remember Us, which is clearly referring to the original characters, so they very well may be memories of them trapped in the Dark Ether. So essentially what happens is, it seems like the Terminus crew or the Requiem crew gets sucked into the Dark Ether, literally inside of the Sentinel artifact itself. So we know that the amulet, the Obscurus Attilium, has a galaxy within inside it, if you look at it, which is described as the heart of the Dark Ether, like the Nexus on the tomb. So it could be possible that this is some sort of pocket dimension, a part of the Dark Ether that we get sucked into the Dark Ether itself. And then, for some weird reason, we meet the original characters when we do so. Now, it's been leaked for a while now that Black Ops 7 Zombies might have an 8-player crew. Now, I don't know if all 8 can be playable or you can only select up to 4, but they are all available in the selection screen. But it does seem like the Terminus crew are all still going to be in Black Ops 7 Zombies. We're not just going to be playing as the original characters, which means they're going to be having dialogue with each other, and it means that these characters are not done with yet. I know a lot of people feel very underwhelmed by Black Ops 6 Zombies and feel like the crew has not been fleshed out enough, it's had conflicting dialogue, or the character motivations and arcs have not carried through map to map, and they're constantly contradicting one another, but at least Black Ops 7 Zombies will give them a second chance to get that right. However, I do fear that it might be an overbloated cast having 8 characters, because that's been an issue with Black Ops 6 Zombies with having too many characters. Lots have been left to the side, such as Ravenov and Peck, and when the Terminus crew are teleported into this realm, there is a dead soldier on the ground and zombies around, so most likely the original characters have been surviving here for at least some time, trying to defend against the Warden or the Shadowsmiths and protecting themselves. And I think that's what's going to happen. Both teams are essentially going to have to team up and fight against the horrors of the Dark Ether, at least temporarily, regardless of them not really understanding the situation. They're going to be very confused, especially when they see another version of Richtofen. They're going to be like, what the hell is going on? That's going to lead to some really interesting dialogue, because obviously the other characters know nothing about the fact that there used to be a multiverse. But yes, it seems like Black Ops 7 Zombies is all going to be set within the Dark Ether, as was announced, so I'm guessing where we get sent into is basically an inverted version of Liberty Falls, which is probably what we see within the teaser for Black Ops 7 Zombies, where we see some sort of vehicle, and in the background it looks like the Janus Towers, and this vehicle a lot of people think is the transit bus, which, if you are unaware, the Vault Edition skins have leaks for Black Ops 7, and one is going to be Ted. Now, he looks way different, really weird. This is clearly before he was destroyed. Now, obviously everything got sent into the Dark Ether, so it makes sense for him to return, but he might be back on some sort of transit-esque Liberty Falls large map, like has been rumored for a while, with the original characters and also the Terminus crew. But we see a cage in the background, and maybe this could be because the original characters have been getting locked up by the Warden or something, or the Shadowsmiths or something like that. But how are the original characters back? Like I said, I think they are memories of them, because if you're unfamiliar with Tag to Totem, the souls of the original characters were bonded with the Elemental Shard that got purged with all Elements 115 and sent into the Dark Ether. Ultimus and Primis had to die, but the entirety of the old multiverse got collapsed into the Dark Ether. So obviously in a multiverse there would have been an infinite amount of other versions of the original characters that we just didn't see in the game. For example, Eddie came from Dimension 2210, the version we play as now. So these are versions from that old multiverse that got thrown in there. Even Craig Houston, when Tag to Totem was coming to a close, said this is the end of the line for Ultimus, Primis and Victus, but with the multiverse established, they still have room to tell new stories. So essentially the multiverse exists within the Dark Ether, not the real world. However, here, it still contradicts the tag to toe ending because their souls should still be purged. So like I said, I think it's going to be some sort of weird explanation with them just being memories of these characters that got sent in there, and they might be soulless. I don't know. Honestly, it's definitely going to undo some things, and I hope they do a good job in explaining it, because so far they have not really explained anything. It's just come out of nowhere. But Richtofen says when he meets the other characters, welcome to the party, almost as if Richtofen knew he would be greeting them in the future. And I don't know why. That to me suggests he could have been the one speaking with Panos and anticipating this day, or maybe he even purposefully set up events to try and get the characters to join them because they need to fight off the Shadowsmiths from within the Dark Ether. But there isn't really too much to say about the original characters, to be honest. Like I said, they're a new version we've never seen before, and we won't know much about them until we actually learn about them, because we have no dialogue from them apart from that one Richtofen quote. But just judging from their outfits, Richtofen looks like he's still a Nazi because he's wearing his German military SS officer costume, I guess, so maybe he's going to be more like his Ultimus self as opposed to his Primis self, although visually I think he is a kind of mix between the two. Then if we look at Nikolai, he looks very different, almost jarringly different, but he still has the goggles on just like his Primis self. Dempsey to me looks pretty much the same, and then Takeo looks kind of more like a authentic Japanese fighter, so I'm guessing he's probably going to be fighting for the samurai spirit just like his other selves as well. And yeah, it's going to be weird because now we have two Richtofens again in this storyline like we had with Ultimus and Primis before. So will Janice Richtofen and this Richtofen ever meet or communicate in Black Ops 7, or like I said, will Janice Richtofen just get forgotten about now? Has he gotten his happy ending and we'll never hear from him again? Both are possible, because if the game is going to be fully set in the Dark Ether, then they don't really need to connect things to the outside world where the other version of Richtofen is necessarily. However, we do know come Modern Warfare Zombies, the characters end up dying in Urzikstan. I think that's because ultimately by the ending of Black Ops 7 Zombies, I think they will escape the Dark Ether and they will have to sacrifice themselves because they were too exposed to the Dark Ether and essentially made them walking time bombs and it was killing them. So all of the Modern Warfare stuff tying into Ava Jansen, I think that's all going to be explained by the ending of Black Ops 7 Zombies, even though we thought it was going to be for this game instead, which is a bit of a shame, I guess. I will be making a separate video in the future talking more about the original characters. This is just sort of my initial thoughts. It's really too early to say. I think this map has felt very rushed. They've had so many different plot threads to try and tie up, and it's just been too much going on to explain it all on this map. And there's a lot of really jarring dialogue and questionable dialogue on this map. It doesn't feel natural, so I'm hoping that the original characters sound and feel more natural in their elements. It's just too early to say. So far, this cutscene really does feel like key jingling. I think it's in a very similar position to Doctor Who right now, where they're just kind of baiting for nostalgia with no substance. This is all aura farming, impression farming, but there's nothing there of value or meat to it, and all it's really doing is undoing that tag to an ending. So it's really dependent on how they execute it with Black Ops 7 Zombies, how this all pans out. If they do an effective job of explaining how they exist and give them an effective conclusion, they'll probably have to fight off the Shadowsmiths, which are going to be the villain for the game from within the Dark Ether. Like I said, it's weird. They don't get any reference on this map though. It's just really too early to tell right now what on earth these versions of the characters are going to be like, how they're going to interact with the Terminus crew. Speaking of the Terminus crew though, we know that Strauss is one of the ones who dies in Urzikstan. So where is he? Shouldn't he be with them as well here instead of Maya because she doesn't die? I think that's definitely a retcon. I think initially Strauss was meant to be a playable character, but they changed it somewhere along the lines, which seems to be a common theme for this game. There's a lot of really weird choices, so I don't know how that's going to make sense, but it's probably not something we're supposed to think deeply about. So yeah, I guess we just have to wait and find out. I think Richtofen is probably going to be the main character once again. I mean, he always is. He's the fan favorite. He's the one at the front of them and the only one who gets dialogue here. So only time will tell, but let me know what you think of all of this in the comment section down below. As always, I'll have plenty more storyline videos going a lot more in depth. Obviously, this is, like I said, just my initial thoughts. A lot to digest here. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.